Hello, everybody, and welcome to Loon Calling, a podcast dedicated to Minnesota United Football Club. And I am joined with my friends in Minnesota United Fandom, Diakenna and Zoe. And we are here to talk all things about the off season that we are currently going through right now. But before we get to that, let's go through some introductions. And Diakenna, I'm going to throw it to you first. Could you introduce yourself to all of our lovely listeners out there?
Yeah, I'm Diakenna IRL. I'm known as Stephen Dozeman. If you listen to some of my other podcasts, you might find me uh, doing some of that. But I've been a Minnesota United fan for a couple years after a 15-year playing career where I never really watched professional soccer because it just wasn't on in my house. Um, but now I've been getting into soccer lately as a fan. So
Alrighty, I'm going to throw it over to Zoe now. Could you introduce yourself to our lovely listeners out there?
Hello, everyone. My name is Zoe. I also go by Nightfold on the internet. I am a Loons fan since back in the Thunder days when I was a child, growing up in Blaine, Minnesota, basically living at the NSC as a child playing soccer. I am a DJ. I am a occasional podcaster. I am a host in VR chat. I work for several conventions, and I feel like I'm missing something, but it's not
Aren't you
coming
a
to mind.
Liverpool supporter?
And I am the most diehard Liverpool supporter in all of Minnesota United fandom. And I will die on that hill with my fucking scarf.
See, I'm I'm about to drop a bomb at the beginning of our little podcast is that I don't really pay attention to European
You don't
soccer.
watch the Prem.
No, I don't really. I'm trying to get into it, but I just cannot get invested. So I am very entertained by the banter that happens in the Loons Discord. We're all in the Loons Discord, by the way.
The
Um,
best supporter group, even
it's
though we're
true.
not
It
an
is the
official
best supported.
supporter
I
group.
love that little group of a wide variety of different kinds of soccer nerds. And Yeah, I enjoy the banter. I have no context for it, so I'm just like, the Man United, Liverpool, supporters and Chelsea supporters are all at each other's throats, and I don't know what the hell is going on. So,
It it
you know,
it's great and it's fun being a Liverpool supporter because like when we're on and we're winning, it's amazing, and when we're playing terribly, everyone loves shitting on us. So you got to know how to take your licks.
I've definitely gotten that sense. Well, I might as well introduce myself. My name is Ari. I have been a Minnesota United fan since the summer of 2022, the inaugural season of League's Cup, that prestigious continental tournament. Um, yes, the League's Cup is what got me into Minnesota United and into soccer in general. Really, I went to a game at Allianz Field. I got hooked on the atmosphere and how exciting it was, and then I just fell down a rabbit hole. And then I started watching the team at the beginning of the 2023 season, and then I watched the entire last season of Adrian Heath's tenure at the club. And then I got to see the club transition into the Eric Ramsay era, which that is something we're going to touch on later. The results of that, but I have slowly become more and more of an American soccer nerd. My entry point was Minnesota United, and then I started learning more about MLS, and now I'm getting more interested in USL and the other clubs. And I'm trying to get into European. I love cup competitions. So I love the Champions League. I like watching Champions League. I like watching FA Cup. I like all that stuff. But European League play, like I'm trying to get into Bundesliga because my German teacher in high school was from Bremen. So she was a Werder Bremen supporter in the Bundesliga. I remember she had the big green flag with the W on it hanging up in her classroom. So I've been trying to follow Werder Bremen. And holy hell, is the Bundesliga kind of a slog to watch. It's not very exciting soccer.
Really?
Um
I
I
always I always thought it was very attack heavy, which makes it very fun, in my
maybe
opinion. Like
maybe just because Werder Bremen sucks. I don't know. They're
it's
not very
I
good.
possible.
I think it has to do with the fact that the Bundesliga is won by one of two teams.
See,
It's
that's the other
Bayern
thing.
Munich or it's Dortmund.
Dortmund hasn't won in over a decade.
Yeah, and Dortmund hasn't won since they beat since they had Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah, I mean Bayern Munich has won every year for over a decade, save for one where Leverkusen went the entire season undefeated. So that's the level of competition there. It's still a
We
fun
cl-
league, but like
we
this is kind of a
clearly have
what.
found our Bundesliga correspondent.
Yeah, well, I mean, I will say I've been enjoying. I'm considering a move to Germany at some point in the future, so
Mm.
I've
Hell
been kind
yeah.
of watching into
You
it.
could
But
actually be a correspondent
this
for the
is a
Bundesliga.
problem, and part of the reason I suspect people love the Premier League so much is it is more hard to predict who's going to win it. Whereas, like France, you have PSG, Germany, you have Bayern Munich. Spain is just a two-way race between
Yep.
Barcelona and Real
Barcelona or
Madrid.
yep.
Whereas the Premier League, at least it is like a little harder to
And it's
gauge
even
who's going to win.
particularly a chaos season in the Premier League this season. Like
Yeah.
it seems like everyone is kind of bad or at least not elite.
I
Like
think I think I wouldn't quite call it everyone's bad. It's we are at a point in the Premier League where there is a generation of players that are cycling out of the league.
mm,
And the giants in the league are experiencing a high amount of roster turnover. I mean, yes, Mo Salah is still playing for Liverpool, but Mo Salah's in his 30s now. Like the
mhm,
golden generation of Liverpool is gone. And I feel sorry for Arne Slot because yeah, his first year as a coach, he won the league. It's not
mhm,
helping himself, even though like there's only what I think like two or maybe three players left of that golden Liverpool generation that are left on the squad.
mhm.
The rest of them have all moved on. So I think it's a lot of squads are having that
Turnover.
roster turnover where, you know, the players they've been playing for the last 6+ years are starting to filter out into either competitive teams or moving to other leagues or going to the Saudi Pro League to make a giant boatload of cash. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Ronaldo.
Yeah. Yeah. Why couldn't you be like Messi and come to a legit league like MLS? Like come on.
To be fair to Liverpool, they did spend crazy money over the last year, and I will be more excited to see what they do next year once the dust has kind of settled on some of those
Mhm.
new transfers. Like I think they've built the next legacy generation. It's just taking time to come together, but they're still competitive. They're still solid.
I guess we'll just have to see what happens. We'll see if I decide on a club that I want to support. Um
You strike me as someone if I had to pick a Premier League team for
am I being
you.
assigned? Am I being assigned right now?
I'm not assigning you officially, but I'm going purely on vibes.
Okay.
Purely on vibes, Ari.
Okay.
You kind of strike me as like a Villa or a West Ham kind of person. That
Okay.
just based on vibes.
Okay.
I don't think that you would go for any of the other London based teams. Maybe a Fulham because they're scrappy.
I like the way Fulham plays for sure. Whenever I do watch Fulham, I usually like what I watch, but I mean, to speak to the quality of the Premier League, it is the league I enjoy watching the most of what I've checked out. And I like La Liga too. I've checked out since Tanny got, which we're going to talk about this later in the episode. Since Tanny got sold to Villarreal, I've watched some Villarreal and fun to watch. Fun team to watch. Very dynamic attack. I wish he was getting more minutes, but you know, that's a whole other story. Why don't we get into the team we're here to talk about? We are here in January, the very start of the preseason of the 2026 season. But before we talk about what is going to happen, we need to talk about what happened last year. The 2025 season was a pretty good one by all accounts. It was the most successful season in club history, our very short club history. This is the 10th anniversary of the club, right? This is season number 10.
Last year was 9. We're about to enter 10. Yes.
Yeah. So in the 10 years of the club, last year was the best season. The club set the points record, which is a very good achievement. Yet the season kind of fizzled out toward the end, which I think left a lot of supporters with a sour taste in their mouth. What do you, Diakena, I'll throw it to you. What are your impressions of the 2025 season, or I guess what were your impressions of the 2025 season? What stood out to you?
Yeah, I think this was kind of a season where, especially with Eric Ramsay, we were kind of all ready to really see what he could do because he came in a few weeks late in 24 and it was kind of a roller coaster. He seemed solid at the beginning, then he had this long period in the summer where we just could not stop losing. But we all kind of understood it's because his roster had been gutted by international call ups. Um, and then he kind of pulled things together and managed to get us squeaking into the playoffs at the last second. So I think we were all generally pleased with Ramsay, but we kind of wanted to see like what would he do with, you know, a more complete roster that doesn't fall apart for a third of the season. Um, and what we saw was a very grounded, pragmatic person who kind of looked at his roster and basically asked, how can I just grind out the best possible points season, the best possible record I possibly can, just get as high on the table as I can. Um, and to that effect, he leaned into some very strongly defensive principles. He had to convince his strikers and attacking midfielders to come back on defense. He had to talk to his two strikers and Kelvin and Tani and say, like, sometimes you'll be together, sometimes one of you will start, sometimes the other will start. It'll just depend on what we're trying to do that day. And he had to kind of get a lot of people to buy into this kind of very gritty version of soccer. And he also had to convince, I think, me and a lot of other fans uh, of that idea that just because we're playing a defensively heavy style, just because we don't have high possession, this is kind of part of how we're trying to lean into our strengths, develop kind of these core principles to build around. So it wasn't always like the prettiest style to watch, but I felt like I learned a lot as a viewer. I think the players seemed to really buy into what he was saying, which kind of spoke to his quality as a leader. And if you ever like listen to his post-match conferences, he's super articulate. Like I totally understand why players are buying into him kind of giving them a vision and putting 110% down for admittedly probably some not very fun soccer to play. So overall, I thought it was really good in that respect. There were also like a lot of players who I think took great steps forward. Joaquin Pereira kind of exploded. Carlos Harvey has been doing a lot of really great work. Um, Tani obviously developed a lot, and he has been for the last couple of years, and that got him the call up. I would also look.
Tanny had a fantastic, like,
Yeah, he was
his
great.
play was absolutely incredible when he
Right,
was with this team.
and it was not just that he was scoring goals, but he was doing great hold up play. He was doing great
Mm-hmm.
passes and assists. I would also look at someone like Bongi, who has turned into like a relatively consistent and solid defender. When we brought him in, he was kind of intended more as a striker or a attacking winger. So Ramsay did a really great job of getting the team together in kind of a cohesive vision, and also I think has shown that he's really good at player development. So those would be kind of the main positives. There were some like limitations, and we did kind of run into a ceiling, especially late in the season. But there were a lot of good things that I enjoyed watching over the course of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think recency bias is definitely a factor here because I was seeing some talk on Reddit of people kind of looking back on the style of the season and kind of saying we were boring to watch all year when that just was not true. I think the style was very, very fun to watch. I just think back to the Miami game and how crucial Tanny was in that game. Uh, and well, everybody was firing on all cylinders too. But just because we spent most of those matches defending, our possession percentages were under 30% a lot of the times. When we got the ball, it was usually really, really, really exciting. And this team could do some really exciting, explosive things with the ball for a lot of the season. I also think about the performance against Club America um, as a standout performance of like playing to our style, but also giving an extremely strong performance when we had the ball. And that kind of characterized the first half of the season for me, or I guess the first 2/3 of the season, because then once the reporting was coming in that Tanny was going to get sold to Villarreal, I think that just kind of took all the wind out of the sails of this team. And from that point on, and especially when we got to the U.S. Open Cup semifinal. I was at that game in Allianz, and we played really well that game. Um, and it was a very exciting performance, a very good performance. And then one, Kelvin Uboa gets injured in that match, goes off injured. Two, we concede a goal in like the last minute of extra time in that match. And that is like the moment you can look back on of just like this team is like, I don't know if I can commit 100% to this style. But then you get into the playoffs and you play the Seattle Sounders, and then you have game 3 be one of the most exciting like games of soccer you will ever see anywhere. And then all of a sudden you start to rethink like, wait, maybe this group is like extremely bought into this style and is willing to claw back even from a man down in that match. It's it makes you think about the season in a different way because like in the weeks leading up to the playoffs, I think I was very sick of the style. It was getting very boring to watch. I think the players were tired of playing that way and weren't totally bought in. But then once the playoffs started, it kind of turned into a whole different thing. Um, so Zoe, I'm curious what your thoughts are about everything we've talked about so far.
I think if we're strictly talking about the 2024 season, I do agree it's a banner year for the Loons. Most points in team history, had an amazing run in the Open Cup. Good playoff run. I mean, we were seeing the articles about Sicko Soccer, Set Piece FC. I While it is not necessarily the funnest soccer to watch, it was definitely entertaining for me to watch. Now, I do agree that I don't believe that this was the way that Eric Ramsay wanted to play, but it was the best system to work with what he had with. Now, I could go on a giant rant about Minnesota sports teams' ownerships not spending money, when they should and care more about making a profit than winning championships, which in theory makes you more profit. Um, but that goes without saying. I definitely believe, and you alluded to it when you were wrapping up, there was a bit of an emotional wind taken out of our sails when Tanny got sold to Villarreal. Now, I'm very much he showed out in the first half of the season. Was like what, top
He was
6 in
balling.
goals in the league?
He was top 10. No, he was, I think, number 2 or 3 in expected goals
Yeah,
in the league.
playing out of his mind. Um
Just
he
outstanding play.
he earned his European call up, and I am happy for him. But I do believe that did take a certain amount of momentum out of the team. Um, we did kind of collapse a little bit down the stretch. We did turn it back up in the playoffs. I was happy to see us get over the hump with Seattle because they always seem to have our number. We beat them in a playoff series, even though it was close and there was way more PKs than I have ever wanted to experience in my life. Um, I would say overall, the season was a success, but the season was also um, a sign of what was to come. And I believe that first domino was Tanny signing with Villarreal. We got a great package for him. But I think, if I remember correctly, we got $8 million for him.
I think it was 9.
9? Tons of money.
It's on a player we acquired for nothing.
Yeah, on a player we acquired for nothing.
Through
So
the
it was
super
a
draft.
huge profit move, which
And a player that we developed too. Like, that is the first player coming out of
our academy system or whatever.
Yeah, of like
He wasn't
getting drafted.
an academy player. He was
No,
a college player who got drafted. If I'm
And did he ever play on the next pro team?
Yes, and he played for MLS Next Pro for almost a full season, and then we also loaned him out to I believe it was San Antonio, who are in the USL Championship. He tore it up
Okay.
there. So what I what I think is interesting about his career is you can look at every year and see him just taking it one step at a
An extra
time.
step.
He is a great case for why players shouldn't mind getting loaned to a lower division team, or maybe spending a
Absolutely.
year or two at MLS or in USL. Like, work on your game, develop, grow.
It
He's a
gives
really good kid.
credibility to the way the soccer pyramid works in the States and it actually having success stories.
Right.
Khaled El Ahmad has come out and said that Tanny wanted the move. He wanted to move on to Europe. Why would you not?
Yeah.
Like, you can't blame the guy, and that is also the main, that that's the thing I forgot to include in the rundown, is that for much of this season there was a lot of like ruminating around, a lot of like rumors going around, with like, oh, they're gonna vote on the schedule change, they're gonna vote on the calendar flip. And that is like the main argument for the calendar flip, is that you won't have your best player getting sold in the primary transfer window for
In the
all of the other
summer,
major leagues.
so you lose them for the stretch run to the playoffs.
For the playoffs, the most important. Imagine if we had Tanny in the Seattle series. Like,
oh, absolutely.
I think
Completely
we would have won
different
some of those
scenario.
matches in regulation instead of drawing every single game and going to penalties.
Yeah. I think it's also, I mean, it's tough to like have that side of the business end, but that is also kind of part of what made me really impressed with Ramsay, is that he was still managing to wring out any last bit of value over the roster that he did have, even as it's kind of getting moved around. I mean, I looked at the financial charts at the beginning of the season. We were spending as much on our wages as Montreal. Like I know we're kind of in a frustrated feeling right now with like ownership, and that's like perfectly valid. But I think it also like speaks to kind of how much we're kind of squeezing out of our roster. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so
And by all accounts, that is aligning with ownership and aligning with the front office and how we want to be operating. By all accounts, they want us to be the Philadelphia Union of the Western Conference. Like, that is like, we want to buy players on the cheap using data analytics to identify talent in markets that are not expensive.
We're
Um,
moneyballing.
money
We're
balling.
moneyballing.
Yes, exactly. But you have to hope that looking forward, you moneyball until you get your roster really good. And when you get the opportunity to make a splash on a difference maker player, please, for the love of God, open your wallet and buy the game changing player that will win you a championship. That's all you
If
can
you
hope for.
if you follow hockey, it's for the love of God, please grab Quinn Hughes.
Yeah,
You have an
like
opportunity to get Quinn Hughes. Get Quinn Hughes.
respect. Respect to Billy Guerin for doing that. I was
He's
very
got
impressed. Like,
balls.
what? This is Minnesota. We don't do that. What are you talking about? We don't give up the bag for one of the best players in the league. Um, but yeah.
Should we,
Any other thoughts on the 2025 season before we move on?
before we move on to the devastation that was the slow
The
death
gut
march
punch after
through the
gut
off-season?
punch.
I feel it felt like the off-season. I mean, the tanning move was, we kind of knew it was coming. But once the off-season hit, it felt like we were playing Mortal Kombat and we just got perfect rounded and then fatalityed. It was brutal. And I think the best way to start out the off season is MLS goaltender of the year 2025. We
Yeah.
all thought that he wanted to go play for Europe, play in Europe. No, DSC wants to go play with Messi.
Yeah, so that is the first major thing that happens in the off season is that we're all wondering what's going to happen with Dane St. Clair because he's being very wishy-washy about, you know, he knows his value and he, wants as much leverage as possible. He got as much leverage as possible and he weighed his options and he decided that the option he wanted to go with was signing with Inter Miami um, instead of re-signing with this club where you have a guaranteed starting spot in an organization that knows you and is behind you. Maybe you can tell my feelings on that decision, but I'm going to try to be not just a homer and actually look at it objectively. But I'm going to pose this question to, we'll throw it to you, Zoe, first. Do you think this is a good career move for Dane St. Clair?
I think that it could be a good move for Dane St. Clair, and whether or not it is going to be completely determined on how well Inter Miami plays in 2026. Um, I believe that Dane is a good enough goaltender that he could have gotten a starting job in Europe. Which league and at what club, I don't know. But Dane is good enough to be a starting goaltender in the big European leagues. As we all know, he's basically the starting goaltender for the Canadian national team. And thinking about the World Cup, which Canada has qualified for, whether that happens or not is the beyond the conversation of this podcast. Um, if I were him, I would thinking, where can I get solid competitive playing time to help my international team in the World Cup this summer? Instead, I feel like he's very much made a, not a selfish move, but I feel like instead of a step forward, he took a step sideways. Um, I think he could have gone for Europe right away. If he does well with Miami, the connections that Inter Miami has between its ownership and between Messi, gets more eyes on him, thinking it is a lateral move before springboarding to Europe. Um, I feel like it was the time for him to go to Europe, and I think going to Miami left a big sour taste in the fan base's mouth that, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, Messi is Messi, but like it very much came across to the fan base of, are you a serious football player or are you just a fanboy? And this came across as a fanboy move rather than I want to develop and I want to play against the best. Not saying that playing against MLS is bad. The profile and the cachet and the level of play of MLS has gone up astronomically in the last 10 years.
Even in the last, since I started watching in
Even the last
2022, the
5
level has
years, it's gone
skyrocketed.
way up. But
Yeah.
I feel, especially around the circus that happened with him kind of holding out about re-signing it reminded me of like a wide receiver holding out for a payday until someone throws a whole bunch of money in the NFL. And then he got signed by, the New England Patriots during their dynasty years. That's kind of what this felt like. Good for him. Apparently, I think he signed at Miami for less than what Andy Grader quoted on us offering him.
Yep.
So clearly, it was a visibility move for Dane, not a money thing. Um, he was our douchebag. He was our douchebag, and I'm kind of upset that he's playing for the Pink Phony Club.
Diakena, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, going off what Tom Bogert said, I think it was back in December, early January, he said that when this move happened, he was strongly convinced that it was more an issue on the club's part, that we kind of were holding out on a big financial offer for him. Um, and according to Bogert, who I think is fairly trustworthy and pretty well connected, he
Probably
said
the
if we,
most well connected.
yeah, he
reporter.
said if we had made the offer that we eventually did a couple months earlier, he was convinced Dane would have stayed. So I think it was probably more a case of us kind of holding out in a way that maybe made Dane kind of frustrated and understandably decide, like, if this club is going to penny pinch, I'm going to, see if I can plant my seed elsewhere. I don't think it's a terrible move for his career development because he gets to spend a couple years playing with this kind of dynasty legacy type team. He's going to be able to appear in like CONCACAF for a couple years. And then Messi, like, he's almost 40. He's not going to be there for long. Dane is still only 28. He's still got a couple years, I think,
He's
of.
just entered his goalkeeper prime, to be
Yeah, I
honest.
mean, depending on the player, it can be like late 20s, but even early 30s. So it's possible that he's still got a bit of developing to do. So he gets to go play some big games. And maybe then when Messi retires, that whole roster maybe is going to kind of come apart. But then he maybe gets to leverage that Messi experience into a bigger offer. I would have loved to see him stay in Minnesota. And I think if we'd made like the right offer at the right time, he might have been open to it. He seemed to like being the guy here, and really just enjoy, being, like you said, our douchebag. But I kind of don't blame him for, getting frustrated and also maybe feeling like maybe Miami is, a good place to spend a couple years before Messi retires, and then he can kind of reevaluate from there. Like, I get why he's moving on. I more
Yeah,
blame the
I,
club, I think, than the player there.
yeah. I think those are some. I think those are some good points. I think I think it is ultimately a good move for him, both for exposure and just for the opportunity to play of the greatest with the greatest player of all time. Like, for some reason, this thing exists amongst MLS fans or just American soccer fans in general. It's just like, are we not acknowledging that Messi's the greatest player of all time? And how I think any professional player would give a lot to just be able to play with a player as good as that. Like, I think people underestimate the power of that. And I think people hold it against players when I don't really hold it against them. I think it's a fair reason to go and play with someone. Now, I'm not applying that to Dane because the thing I don't think is good about it is that the thing about Inter Miami is if he's not performing well, he will be replaced and he will not be starting. If he's not playing well here, I think the chances of him getting replaced are lower. Um, so that's my only stipulation on that is that if he is not at the top of his game, he might get replaced, and that might hurt his chances of being the starting goalkeeper come the World Cup. But he said himself, he likes the pressure, he likes the spotlight, he wants to challenge himself. You kind of want a goalkeeper that wants to do that, that is taking the risk to be at your club to play in these big matches. Like, CONCACAF Champions Cup are the biggest, most competitive matches you can play on the continent. So, a pretty good move. And Minnesota United are not even near like playing in that competition unless we take a giant step this year, which we're going to talk more about, maybe the steps that we're taking this year. Um, I think it's probably a good time to move on to the next big thing that happened in the offseason. So Dane St. Clair, he signs with Inter Miami. We are kind of scrambling for a keeper. And hey, I'm not patting myself on the back, but I'm just saying the day it was reported that Dane was signing, I was just like, Drake Callender is sitting on Charlotte's roster. Just the bizarre situation of Inter Miami, like letting him go off of the roster and Charlotte paying money to acquire him only to sell him to us. So Minnesota United signs Drake Callender, the former Inter Miami goalkeeper, who by all accounts played extremely well and was a very key player and key component of their run to the Supporters Shield in 2024, somehow lost favor amongst either the coaching staff or the front office or whoever, and then was replaced by a much older and by all accounts worse goalkeeper, and then is sold to Charlotte and then sold to us. So what what do we think of that? I'm gonna throw it to Diaken first. I'm just ping ponging between you two.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, I guess, but I'm fine with it. Like you said, by all accounts, he did fine at Miami and then fell out of favor and has just kind of been stuck between clubs for a little bit. Maybe he's a bit out of practice, but he's in preseason right now. I'm not worried about it. It's probably a step down from Dane, but it's not like the floor completely fell out from under us in the goalkeeping department. I don't think he's got the right kind of experience. He knows the league. Um, I don't have a lot of thoughts on him other than I'm happy that we managed to get him.
What about
And
you, Zoe?
I hope he likes it here. So
I agree. I hope he likes it here. I think the best thing that came out of the disappointment of Dane leaving is the fact that while we did not get a goalkeeper as on the caliber of Dane, we got a goaltender that has the same initials, which I find hilarious.
It is
Um,
kind of funny. It is kind of funny,
um,
especially since he's the former Inter Miami keeper as well.
yeah. So I think it was the best case scenario. We'll see how he fits in our system and our style of play going forward, which is likely going to change. Um,
We'll get to that.
Foreshadowing for later in the episode.
Yeah,
Um,
I need to add stuff to the rundown because we got more stuff to talk about. But sorry, finish your thought.
I do think that I think Drake will be a good fit here. Um, it's more of can he replicate that form that he had in 24? Because Inter Miami, the way they run that organization is very similar to some of the top flight teams over in Europe, where if you are not performing and you're not performing consistently, you are on the bench. There's very little margin for error. And I think there will be some more margin for error here for him. Plus, I believe um, there's going to be some sort of goaltender competition. I've been out of the news a little bit. I went to MagFest over the weekend, so I'm a little out of the news cycle. But I do think that of all of the people we could have gotten, I think this was one of the better choices, and it doesn't heal the wound by Dave leaving, but like it's not pouring lemon juice into it.
I also wouldn't read much into him falling out of favor in Miami because Miami has just been a revolving door
A
for
player
the
mill.
like they're just trying to build around Messi. Like that is the project. And so some of it sometimes might even just come down to like Messi has a preferred player he wants to be with, so like I don't know that Calendar did like anything on the field to deserve getting tossed away. It might have just been like he just didn't fit the project, which is keeping Messi happy. So
Yeah, uh, I think it's a good acquisition by us. I think it was probably the best move we could have made at the time. I'm glad he was available and that Charlotte were so willing to do business with us. And it sounds like it's a pretty it left us more I think the structure of the deal was we paid 300,000. Was it in GAM or was it cash? I think it was GAM. 300,000 in GAM now, and then I think 400,000 next season. So it gives us more flexibility in terms of spending to acquire players this season, which again was very generous of Charlotte to agree to structure the deal that way. So I think it's good business, and I think Calendar is going to do well with us. And again, we keep foreshadowing to this, but I don't think the team is intending on defending as much as we did last season. At least they would not like to. But yeah, I think we're gonna move on to the next big thing that happened in the off season. Let's talk some Hassani Dotson. A very important player to this club, has been with the club for a long, long time. Um, he it's been a long ongoing process for him because at the beginning of the 2024 season, he was not happy. He announced that he was looking for a trade out of the club.
I think
And then,
25. You mean 25?
yeah, I mean 25. It's 2026. Yeah, dates. At the beginning of the 2025 season, he it didn't seem like he was very happy with the club. He announced his intention that he would like to be traded, and then shortly after got injured. Um, and after he got injured, he stayed with the club through the whole rehabilitation process. By all accounts, the club was very, very amicable and supported him through the rehab process. And he rehabbed his injury in like record time. Like the estimate of his injury was like 6 to 8 months, and he was back training, I think, within 4. which is an insane turnaround. The guy has an insane work rate, insane work ethic. He's a guy you probably want to have on your team, but he wanted out. He didn't want to be a part of the team. And you can't fight that hard to keep a guy that doesn't want to be on your team anymore. So he ends up departing the club because he was out of contract at the end of the season. The club did not pick up his. I don't think he even had a club option. He was going to have to a new contract altogether if they wanted to keep him. Zoe, I am curious what you think about the Hassani Dotson situation.
You're gonna have to fact check for me.
Okay, I'm here.
We had
I'm here to fact
Dotson for
check.
quite a long time. A staple of the club. You know, he made it very known during the 24 season that he wanted to be traded. This is it's a long time coming. Um, I will say it's stand up with the organization to stand by him during his rehab and get him some minutes off the bench, which would in turn potentially help him um, look a little bit better out on the player market. I think that was a standout thing that the organization did. Um, but I do also believe that it is a bit of a sign that is the relationship between the front office and the players and the coaches all that great. Um, he is a very versatile player. Um, he can play a bunch of different roles, especially in the midfield. But he effectively was replaced by someone like Triantis. I think it was the time has come. I do wish him well. He did get picked up and signed by his hometown club in Seattle. So little extra rivalry there with the Sounders that we have. I think that this is the best the situation could have resolved itself. Um, Tough to see another club mainstay go. Definitely feels like we are in this, if not a full rebuild, a half rebuild. Um, but no, good on the club to stick with him through rehab. I feel like maybe we should have traded him before the season. Maybe got more value out of him.
Yeah, I agree. He was versatile, really excellent player, but uh, I'm happy for him that he gets to go. I'm happy whenever any player gets to kind of go spend some time playing in their hometown. So for him, that's Seattle. And I think he'll do really well there, partly just because of how his versatility, I think, will work really well with the way Seattle likes to play. They're another team that, under Schmetzer's leadership, they're just very pragmatic, very grounded. I think put him next to someone like Christian Roldan. I think they're really just going to have this very calm control of the midfield and the middle third, and they're going to create a lot of really good, patient but are methodical attacking pressure. Um, Seattle, I know we hate them, but like you kind of got to have a begrudging respect for how they're just able to consistently grind and churn out good results year in, year
They're
out.
a fantastic club and organization. I have
Yeah,
a
and
lot of
it's
respect for them.
right. And it's not like, they do spend some money on, decently big names, but they're not like an LAFC or a Miami. Instead, they're really just grounded in kind of getting a cohesive formation together. Um, and I bring all that up just to say I think Dotson it's not just good for Dotson that he gets to go home, but I think he fits Seattle really well. I think Seattle is going to really see a lot of value in him. I think Schmetzer will have some really interesting but really good questions to ask himself of how do I kind of fit Dotson next to like Roldan and Pedro de la Vega and behind Jordan Morris and kind of get all this to work together. I think it's going to be like, I think they're going to be a tougher team to play because of Dotson. So
Yeah, And Schmetzer and the Sounders work really well with American players like Dotson of that kind of profile. You're right. Christian Roldan and Hassani Dotson, fucking destroyer midfield. Like, absolutely locked down. I would not, yeah. I mean, I don't want to ever play against the Sounders ever. Um, it's especially not with those two in the midfield. So I think that's a good shout. But I will say for Hassani, I respect the shit out of him for his work rate and his like seemingly infinite stamina on the, like I have so many memories of him sprinting the full length of the field to break stuff on counters. Like the guy is like I would love to still have him on the roster, but at the end of the day, if he doesn't want to be a part of the team anymore, I really don't like I think some people, especially on Reddit, which I need to stop reading, um
Yes, please.
really
For the love of your sanity,
yeah,
stop reading Reddit.
really like pushing the narrative that this front office is somehow cold and like isn't doing I don't know, is like somehow operating not in the way that every other organization operates. Like, I think the front office has a very good relationship with the players that they signed to be a part of the project. And if you come a part in the project, like Hassani was drafted in 2019, has been with the club since then. The club has changed a lot. Adrian Heath is no longer with the club, and now the entire structure of the club is different. Like Adrian Heath was a manager. He was the head coach and he famously had no club infrastructure whatsoever around player acquisition, data analytics, all of this stuff.
It
And
was a
then all of a
hot
sudden,
mess.
Sherry Ballard comes in and she changes the entire structure of the club. And now Khalid El Ahmad gets hired and he further builds out the infrastructure of the club. Now we operate like a modern club. The entire culture is different. I don't blame players for not feeling like they're connected to the project anymore. Also, I think Kasani just wants to go home, wants to play for his hometown club. Also, it's a fucking great club to play for. Like the in my opinion, the model American club is the Seattle Sounders. I don't have the hate in my heart for the Sounders that a lot of Minnesota soccer fans have for them from the NASL days. And because I'm young, I just turned 27. Like, I'm just not. And I wasn't into soccer until 2022, y'all. So
I just felt several grams of rust fall off my joints.
I respect that organization a lot. And I think it's a good landing spot for him. But also, I don't think he's not a game changer, in my opinion. Yes, he scores bangers sometimes. But in my time watching him, he is a great player that you want in your starting 11, but he's not going to be a huge difference maker and doesn't have a lot of upside in terms of offensive production, a lot of upside in terms of ball distribution. Like Diakena, you brought up Tree, or was it Zoe that brought up like Triantis is? I think it was maybe Zoe that brought up
Yeah,
that
I was the one who
Triantis
brought
is
it up.
like Triantis is an upgrade in many parts of his game over Dotson. Now, he's also making a lot more money than Dotson, but I would rather the club bring in a midfielder like Triantis and be more ambitious in terms of potential offensive upside. Um, I'm, I think it's okay that we moved, that we parted ways from Hassani Dotson. I wish him the best, seriously. I want him to succeed at Seattle, um, especially if Seattle get to beat Inter Miami in a cup competition again. Oh, yes, I will be cheering for Seattle all the way, 10
It's,
times out of
it's
10.
the only situation I will be rooting for Seattle.
I respect it. I respect it. So, from Hassani, from one club legend to another, the actual club legend, a player that perhaps maybe would get some honors from the club besides a certain other player that's on our roster. The big other story from the offseason is that Robin Lod signs a 2-year guaranteed contract with the Chicago Fire. We were in contract negotiations for with Robin for a while. And I think he was truly open to staying here. At the end of the day, I think this is another example of the club being, I don't want to say stingy, but being, in terms of Robin's age, realistic in what is appropriate to offer a player like Robin. Robin is a club legend. He is the all time leading scorer, all time leader in assists in this club. He is a fantastic player and is a game changer player, but he is past his prime. His production is probably only going to go down from here, especially for how this club, I think, wants to play in terms of the pace they want to play, the fitness they want from the players that they want to bring in. Um, Robin is aging out of that level of fitness. Now, would I have loved to keep him around to be a super sub to like change games? Yes, but you could see this past season in the 2025 season, he was getting gassed a lot, especially when we were playing against very athletic teams where we were trying to counterpress a lot and had to do a bunch of defensive work. Robin was getting gassed, and the club ends up offering him a 1+1 deal, a 1 year guaranteed plus one club option. He ends up taking the 2 years guaranteed from Chicago, a project that is very up and coming. You have Greg Berhalter, a very good, respected coach. And I don't blame the man for taking the guaranteed money. He's got a family that's here. Like he wants to secure his family's future. He wants to get that bag. I don't know for sure if they offered him more money on a salary basis. I would assume they offered him more money as well for 2 guaranteed years. Don't blame him for taking that at all. But I'm curious your thoughts about Robin Lod, club legend, leaving the club for Chicago.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss him. He was brilliant, but in a very kind of quiet, humble way, which is
A very
classic,
Finnish way.
classic Scandinavian. Um, he
The most
was.
Finnish.
I do kind of wonder to what degree, like him being let go. I get that we needed to look into like reduced salary because he was getting like 1.6 million. He was the highest paid player on our roster last year, and that was understandably too much. Um, the reason I think he might still be worth maybe I would need to see what we offered him. I don't know, and I don't know yet what Chicago is going to pay him. But the reason I think he was really valuable and sometimes more valuable than like a quick look at his goal production might tell you is his pragmatism and versatility. He just gives coaches um, a lot of flexibility because there isn't any one role that he was cut out perfectly to play. There's always someone, better who can do most positions, but he can do so many different things so that whenever a coach is trying to think, how do I want to set up, you can kind of put Robin in so many different places and get, something like very, like exceedingly competent. um, he just read the field really well, read the game really well, and gave us a kind of stability and depth. And I kind of wonder if that led to him just getting moved around a little too much and possibly suffering a bit as a result. Again, kind of being a victim of his own success in a way. Um, so I get why we might have felt uh, I think you can make an argument for letting him go, but I also think there's a good argument for keeping him around. Um, and maybe depending on who we bring in, we haven't really seen much, but maybe they're just getting ready for a new season and decided that he wasn't going to be part of those plans. But in the meantime, I'm going to miss him. I hope he does well in Chicago. I think Berhalter was really smart to find him because he's still kind of reorganizing his own squad. Robin's a great person to be part of a rebuild. I think for all those reasons I mentioned.
Definitely agree that there will become a time where Robin should be honored by the club for his contributions. Led by example, he was. You can plug him in just about anywhere, and he was decently successful. I feel like maybe the club should have held on to him if, even though his production would go down, I feel like he would have been very valuable as a steadying force for the locker room and for the culture. I think that's not something that you can usually buy in a player. He's probably going to be called up less internationally, so it would be nice to have that really experienced utility player when some of our younger stars are playing internationally. Um, I think it was the perfect time for him to go. You could say that maybe the front office was being a little bit too pragmatic. Um, if there was a person not named Boxall on this team, Robin would be the name on the back of the kit that I owned. I loved Robin. Like you said, very much that Scandinavian, quiet, humble, leads by example. Um, I'm going to miss him. Of all of the off-season things that happened, except for the one what we're about to talk about, for me, from like a team like legacy perspective, and just like, you had those players that like you could hang your hat on, like, this guy's here, he wants to be here. That was Robin to a T. um and I'm I'm sad that he's going. I'm really sad that he's going. Good on him for getting a fully guaranteed contract for 2 years. That's nothing to scoff at. Um, if I remember correctly, with the schedule change, does Chicago end up joining our?
It's not confirmed. It
But the
has been
rumor is,
reported that the suggestion is they would be in our division.
yeah, the rumor is Chicago would be in our division, which would be great to be able to see Robin play again. And honestly, if you think about just sports city rivalries,
Do we
it's
play
nice that we
Chicago
actually
this
have a
year?
rivalry with a team that's moderately close to us. And it'll be nice to have a friendly face on the other side. Or
I'm
maybe not so
checking.
great to have a friendly face on the other side.
Yeah,
We don't
I
play
mean,
Chicago this year.
we don't play Chicago. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so 20. I guess we could meet them in a cup competition.
It's
Um,
possible.
but yeah, um, Robin, respect to you. You're a club legend. Thank you for your service to our club. Like, seriously. Yeah, big salutes to Robin. Um, we're gonna miss him. Like, he was the one where, it was kind of a slap in the face that Dane left. But when it was announced that Robin was signing with Chicago, I was just kind of sad. It was kind of like a melancholy, like, dang, Robin's leaving too. Like, it's like, dang. Um, I'm not exactly sure how to describe it better than that, but that's all I got. So let's what like actually felt like a gut punch. Like, I was already having a bad day when it was announced that it was happening. I think we were all having a pretty bad day, to be honest. And then it's just reported, you know, that Eric Ramsay is leaving the club, taking a head coach job at, what is
West
this here?
Bromwich.
West Bromwich Albion. I think my reaction when I read it on my phone was something along the lines of like, fuck me, or something like that. Like, it was like I wanted to throw my phone. I think I was walking a dog at the time. That's what I do for work. If you didn't know, I walk dogs for a living. Um I wanted to throw my phone on the sidewalk because I was just like,
what date was it announced? Not like officially announced, but like the rumor started happening. Wasn't it like last Wednesday?
Yeah,
It's like a week
something
ago.
like that.
Yeah, it was like a week ago. And I'm like, I'm all geared up and happy. I'm playing this gig on the East Coast. I'm excited. Um and then as I was packing, I get this. Oh, by the way, Eric Ramsay's going to West Brom. And I'm like, of course he's going to West Brom.
Yeah,
What
I think it was Andy
more
Greeter.
could happen to this club?
That was the reaction. I was just like, wow, I thought it couldn't get any worse. I really truly thought Ramsay was going to stay another year, but I mean, we can get into it. We can unpack it. But I I thought he would be staying longer. Like I thought he took this job to learn as much as possible, but I don't know. I guess I'll share my thoughts first. Uh I think this has to do with a lot of factors. Like I think people are I think people are kind of overblowing that like he expressed public frustration that they couldn't get players in the summer transfer window and the signings came really late in the window, which is a potential issue and I guess a potential rift between him and the front office. But also, that's just kind of the story of a head coach with every front office is that they get frustrated that they don't get in the players that they want. That seems to be just kind of a thing that happens all the time. So I'm not putting as much stock into that as a combination of current events and the fact that he gets linked with every job in England and is expected to be the next great manager in England. Like I know he's Welsh, but it really seems like the football media in England, in the UK, are really like pushing him to be like this guy's the next big up and coming like manager. Um we knew he was going to leave at some point. Um, and I think from a combination of current events and I don't know, maybe the relationship to the front office, I just think kind of accelerated things for him. Where it's just like if I get an offer from a comparable level club in the championship, he probably was like, I think I've probably proved enough that I can, to myself and the footballing world, that I can leave a mark on a club and to get the most out of a roster. It's going to be very interesting to see what the style of play is when he takes over at West Brom. But Zoe, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about it.
We found something special in Eric Ramsay. Um, he was honest and forward um, with not only the media, but the supporters. He took time to meet the supporters, which is not something that's very common here in the States. Um, I love the way the guy thought. His ideas were great. He brought sicko soccer to the masses. It's not every day that an American football manager, not an American football manager, but a football manager in the Americas ends up in the Guardian about tactics.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the guy. Um, he brought in some great players. Helmed the best season in Loon's history. Really elevated us, and it kind of hurts to see him go so soon. I knew we would lose him eventually, like you said. The English media has made him out to be the next great European manager, British manager.
Yeah,
and
British is the word I was looking for.
the next great British manager, and will undoubtedly sometime in the next 5 to 6 years probably have a decent shot at a Premier League coaching position.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy for him. I know that he liked it here, but we won't go too much into it. But life in Mini right now is kind of terrifying. Um,
Life in America is
Life in
terrifying.
America is pretty terrifying. And even though they were a high profile um, person, yeah, I wouldn't want to hang out in this country if I was a foreign national. I've gone on record saying that I hope that the FIFA World Cup 2026 is an abject commercial failure because we deserve it. But we're not going to get too much into that topic. I feel like there was maybe some tension with the front office. I believe he was probably frustrated that he wasn't able to seal the deal with some of the players he wanted to bring in, especially with that giant hunk of money we got for Tanny. Um, in recent events was probably the last straw. If you see where he landed, West Brom is 18th out of 24 in the table in the championship. So, I mean, he's got his work cut out for him.
I think he's gonna do well.
I think he's going to do well. Does this turn me into a bandwagon West Brom fan?
No.
No. But I do want to see him succeed. And maybe one day he'll be coaching my Liverpool Football Club and we can turn him into a club legend and I can say I watched him first.
Diana, have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, on a personal note, I started watching the Loons mid 23, so just a little before Heath was let go. So most of my Loon experience has really been the Eric Ramsay era. I kind of joined right as the old guard was kind of heading out and the new guard was coming in. So for me, like Minnesota United is Eric Ramsay. So this is like a big turning point for me personally in my kind of watching the Loons. But I agree with everything Zoe said. Like Eric was, like we've already said, super pragmatic tactically. He was able to squeeze out some really good results from a roster that was good, but definitely like not, we don't make headlines in the way a lot of teams in MLS are doing now with the kind of money they're spending and the players they're bringing in. He's able to kind of do some really impressive things just by kind of getting everyone to put their nose to the grindstone, buy into an admittedly not pretty, but very pragmatic vision of what they're going to do and how they're going to kind of squeeze out whatever results they can over the next year. And you listen to him in press conferences and you get why players buy into it. He's just really articulate, really level headed. He can really kind of get you to see what he's trying to accomplish.
Can literally speak their language too.
Yeah, speaks
Spanish
several
and
languages.
French.
He was apparently, when he came over, halfway through a PhD, which like doesn't surprise me at all. Just
He's
super
ridiculous.
smart guy, really grounded. Also, I would add, he really seemed to enjoy the player development aspect. So, like I brought up, like a lot of guys under his watch really have taken big steps forward in their play. Like we already talked about Tanny, but like Carlos Harvey, Bongi Longwane, all like took huge steps forward, I think, under his management. Like he really kind of helped round them out and put them. Joe Rosales had a great 24.
Perea too.
Yeah, so he really seems to enjoy and lean into like developing guys, seeing their potential and trying to bring it out, which like is really tough to. A lot of managers just want completed products. He really seemed to be excited also by the development aspect as well. So just all around seemed like a great character. Um, I agree. I think there's a lot of different factors that come together that make him eventually decide to leave. Um, I'll be curiously watching West Brom just to kind of see how they do. They're kind of close to relegation right now, but I think they're far enough away. And I think Eric, if we learned anything over the last couple years, he knows how to raise a floor and kind of steady a ship and kind of hold a project together. So
He can grind results
yeah, he
for
is
sure.
very good at just kind of asking, what do I need to do just to get out the best possible result? Not worry about like a trophy that's not happening this year. What do I need to do right in the here and now to kind of get this project steadied? And then in the this summer maybe they'll kind of start working around
Which is
more his
curious
vision.
because in his open letter to the fans, um, he talked about the goal being a trophy.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious what his expectation was. Like, when did he decide that he wasn't going to stay with the club? Is what I'm like. Why would he release an open letter to the fans talking about the future of the club and wanting to strive for a trophy, and then what, like a week and a half later, accepts a head coaching job somewhere else and was just like, ah, psych, just kidding. There's no future with this club. I'm going somewhere else. Like, I'm very curious to know what the turning point was, like where it exactly was. Because reading that letter communicated to me is like, this guy's invested in another year of the club. Like, he wants to, stay with the club. And that turned out not to be true. So I don't really know what to make of that. I'm curious what y'all
I do
think about that.
suspect, like Zoe hinted at it, that the political climate maybe finally kind of was a tipping point. You have to remember he has a wife and two very young kids, and they're leaving, like they left the day before like ICE went to a school, and all the schools in the city had to be shut down. Like I really I don't think that's the only factor, but I think it if he was maybe on the fence or weighing his options.
Straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't blame him or frankly
No.
anyone for deciding like, hey, I have a chance to get me and my family somewhere safer. Like I'm gonna take it. That's totally understandable. But I think there was, maybe some frustration with, how management was reconstructing the roster. He had to know, like, he's already lost his keeper. He's lost one of his key central midfielders. He's spoken highly of Robin's versatility that we were talking about. Then you throw in Dotson. I don't think he and Dotson had any hostility. I think that was an office problem. So I think he maybe feels like you're, you're kind of gutting my team, and maybe they'll start rebuilding around whatever Cam and Khaled want to do. But maybe there was kind of a long series of just frustrations, and he decided, what, I've learned everything I can here. Because he came to MLS specifically because he said, like, MLS managers tend to be given a bit of a longer leash, so I want to be able to kind of learn what it means to be a manager. But maybe he just kind of hit a point where he was like, I've I've spent almost two full seasons here. I think I've learned what I can, um, and it's time to take the next step. So
Pour one out for Eric Ramsay. Feel like the dude's kind of earned it.
I respect the shit out of that dude. Like, whenever I heard him speak, and everyone is the same way. Like, all of the reporters and the pundits that talk to him are all impressed with him. Like, very, very, very impressed. And I was always impressed with him. I am now very curious about where this team is going to go. And yesterday, it was
We
yesterday,
got her.
right? Was the official announcement
Yeah,
that,
yesterday we got her answer.
yeah, we got our answer that Cameron Knowles, who has been a part of this club for I think 7 years, quite a long time, is now the head coach of Minnesota United. A decision that I am actually quite excited about. But Zoe, I'm curious to hear your thoughts first.
When I heard that Eric Ramsay was leaving, the club had two decisions. Either they go out and try to get another home run and find the quote unquote next Eric Ramsay, or they promote a proven coach who knows the organization, knows a lot, if not all the players in the organization, and has proven themselves, even in a small capacity, able to win games in MLS. Yes, Cameron Knowles only coached 3 games um, during the season before Eric Ramsay came, but I was impressed by what I saw. It does seem like this guy is very loyal to the club, and I appreciate when management is loyal to the club. I I feel that also helps inspire players to want to stick around a little bit longer, which when you are a mid to upper table club in MLS, there's going to be player turnover. And I feel like this could potentially help us. Um, he seems like he's a great guy. Um, we don't really have to deal with the whole. Yes, there's going to be a bit of a switch over. Um, I know that Cameron Knowles likes to play a very high pressing style of play, um, expecting a decently high level of fitness from his players. Um, don't get me wrong. I love sicko soccer, and the fact that we were able to put our hat on that is, hey, we're the team that's gonna murder you to death with set pieces from anywhere on the field. It was great. It was great fun to watch. Um, it is going to be a little bit different seeing this different style of play, but we have shown with a lot of the players that we have that we can play that style. Um, I think it will do potential wonders for a defensive line. Um, Boxy's not young anymore. Let's be real. Boxy's going to retire a loon.
Uh-huh. Legend.
A legend. Like the first club legend.
Yeah.
Um, damn it, if they don't make a fucking statue, I'm going to be pissed because he deserves it.
I need to get it's time I get his name on the back of of my uh my black Minnesota United kit.
My next kit will be a Boxy kit. Um, I think that the high pressing style will benefit our defensive line not having to sit back and absorb and absorb and absorb. I definitely feel like Cam Newell's system very much falls on the shoulders of our midfield. Um, and whether it's successful or not. Um, I won't go deep into the tactics of it and the players we have,
Yeah,
but
we can save that for our 2026 preview
yeah,
episode.
we'll save that for the 2026 season preview episode. But if I had to sum it all up, they had two options and they went with the safer option. And I think with how tumultuous this offseason has been, I think that going with the safe option and a proven option in Cam Knowles was the right decision.
Yeah, I think it'll be good, especially with, I think there's a lot of things up in the air at the moment, and I think keeping Cam on board will provide some level of continuity, which will probably help the players. Um, and I went back and watched like the highlight clips from the games where he coached, and it, you're right. It was fun to watch. Like it was kind of chaotic, but like the high press stuff was really fun. I don't know if that'll be exactly what he does. I think it'll depend again on kind of how the roster gets reorganized, but I'm looking forward to us maybe being a little more offensively focused. I'm kind of hoping that it'll bring out more from players. We're bringing in Shankalai. Dominic Fitz was kind of quiet. We didn't see much of him, but I think, that will benefit his style. Maybe Julian Gressel gets more chances to provide service. Bongi Longwane gets to come up forward instead of having to play as like kind of a defensive backline person. I think Kelvin Yaboa is going to have a lot more fun, and we're probably going to get more out of him this year. Nectario Triantis, obviously, we know he's down to press and push people around. So I think it'll bring out more in some of the players we've brought in, and hopefully also give our defensive line a little bit more of a break here and there. Hopefully, give Calendar a bit more space to breathe, and hopefully just be something new, which I think we were going to get no matter what. But yeah, I'm excited for Cam because he's kind of really slowly worked his way up through the ranks, first managing our next pro academy, then coming up and getting the team kind of arranged for Ramsay's arrival. Um, he's really been there for a while, and I think he deserves the shot to really kind of try and make his own project out of it. So
Yeah, I I truly I agree. It was 100% the right move. I think that's a consensus across the punditry and amongst fans. Um, he deserves a shot. He's been a part of the organization for so long. I do agree that I think the style of play was going to evolve regardless, even if Ramsey stayed on. Khaled referred to an evolution in the style of play, I think in the last time he was on the Sound of the Loons podcast. Um, he's really been pushing it, and the players are now saying it too. Boxall, I don't know if you listened to the latest episode of Soccer Wise, but David Goss interviewed him, and Boxall was referring heavy to using the ball more, having more possession, like dominating the game in that sort of. And he was also referring to playing in a back four a lot. And that was my kind of inkling, not to get too much into the tactics, but I really do think this team's going to transition into a back four and in either a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3 or something similar to that. Um, and just play a more exciting brand of soccer that I think is going to be more exciting to watch at Allianz. I think you need to provide a product that is going to be appealing for fans to watch. Um, winning is great. I love winning. And it was really fun to see this club win a lot of games last season. But I think everybody agreed toward the end of the season it was pretty grating to watch. Um, so I do think Cam Knowles is poised to bring a more exciting brand of soccer, and also think that's what the roster is built for. I think Diakenna, you were referring to in the Discord that when Khaled first was hired, the thing he was saying in interviews was, "We want to play like a high energy, high pressing style of soccer." Which is it's very modern, but it's also very popular in MLS for a reason. It's because you can get a lot of inexpensive players that are very fit, very athletic to play a very high energy style of soccer that is maybe not as technical, but is very, very effective, which I think is smart. It's also exciting to watch. It's also extremely versatile. And I think Cameron is genuinely is a coach that likes playing that way and has found a lot of success coaching that way as well, and has obviously garnered a lot of respect and support from the players. Like even the reaction of like watching the team announcement of the reaction the team had, and he seems very close with the players. Like he knows a lot of these guys extremely well. He's been here as long as Boxall's been here, basically. I think Boxall's been here a season or two longer, but we got two Kiwis in the organization that are committed to the organization, and I think with everything that's happening with the occupation of the Twin Cities right now and all of the shit that is going on, having a guy that is dedicated to the community and dedicated to the club is the right move, and a figure that the players can rally around. And I think the club has an opportunity to really, really lean into community and lean into community support and be that beacon of togetherness for especially the St. Paul, the Midway community is really fucking hurting right now. Um as well
Yeah,
as
it's
communities across Minneapolis.
and it's one thing I noticed that the it seems like the team has been very quiet about that, and I
Mhm.
feel like that's going to start to change under
They
Cameron.
addressed it directly in the press conference today. Andy
Mhm.
Greeter asked the question.
Hell yeah.
Khaled responded to it directly and saying, you know, they didn't take a strong stance one way or the other, but they it was clearly like what is happening is horrible and we want to support each other and we are in conversation of how we can support. I want the club to lean more into it for sure. I think the club can do more. Um and I hope they do. And there's really a big opportunity for these players to rally around that sort of sentiment of like focusing on this is the club, this is the project. Cam is the guy. He's been a part of of this organization for so long. He's got his shot. It's now these players that have been in the organization that know him proving to him that they're going to go out and fight for this guy. They're going to run through a fucking brick wall for this guy. And I really hope we see that. Really hope we see this team work really hard for Cam. I think he's easy to work hard for. And I hope he proves me right. Alrighty. I think that about does it for looking at the off season. Oh my god, has it been a long and tumultuous off season and very emotionally taxing. Um we are not going to go into what is upcoming for the 2026 season in this episode. Be on the lookout for that episode. I don't know how in depth our previews are going to be. It's probably going to be more like big picture stuff. I do want to dive into the tactics. I do want to make predictions on how this team is going to play and how these different um, you know, players that are already in the roster are going to fit into it, and also potentially if we could add more to the roster. But um, we have just one more thing here. This is the section that I want to do at the end of the podcast where we just bring whatever's on our mind onto the podcast. If you're watching other soccer, if you're watching other sports, if you're playing video games, if you're watching movies, if you're listening to music, like what is your one more thing that you've been obsessed with that isn't Minnesota United that you want to bring to the table? I will go first as a sort of example, but also, I just have a talking point ready. I am trying to get into basketball. I'm trying to get into the NBA. I'm really trying. It's very nice that we have the Timberwolves, a very good, competent basketball team in the city now that I can really I really I'm kind of a Homer sports fan if we're being honest. Like
You could be a Wolves guy, and being a Wolves guy is cool in 2026.
yeah, exactly. It's nice when you have a player like Anthony Edwards on your basketball team. That's pretty easy to like and pretty good. Like maybe one of the best in the league. Um, so yeah, I'm trying to do the work. I'm trying to seek out content so I can learn more about the tactics of the game and trying to. For me, the more I know about the building blocks of a sport, the more I tend to respect it and understand it. But boy, there are still some things about how the NBA operates, and uh, like playing music during play is very weird to me. I'm still trying to get used to them just playing music in the background, but also, yeah, I'm really trying to get into it, and I'm starting to get into it. Like I'm like watching entire games and like starting to get a sense of how the game ebbs and flows and the different characters in the league and how the Minnesota roster is constructed and what their tactics are. It's also really easy to root for Anthony Edwards. I think he's an extremely likable person. Um, which is nice. It's nice to have a likable franchise person. And who knows, maybe the Loons will sign someone similar to that. The global football landscape is not really conducive to signing a really good superstar for a long period of time in MLS, not unless they decide, like, you know, like Sonny from Spurs to go to LAFC. It might be likely that Sonny just like finishes his career in LA if he likes it enough. Like, it seems like he's pretty invested in the project, so who knows? But yeah, that's my one more thing. Trying to get into the NBA, trying to get into basketball. Who wants to go next?
Throw my hat in. I'm gonna have two.
Oh, cheater.
One, I would like uh I would like to eulogize the death of Sicko Soccer in Minnesota. It was fun while
Rest
it
in
was
peace to
lasting.
Ramsay Ball.
Rest in peace to Ramsay Ball. I loved Ramsay Ball.
I did too.
It was good. My one more thing
I
is
loved angry people on the internet calling it like terrorism soccer. I just
oh,
love. I ate that shit up. I was like, yum 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 yum, yummy.
num
Keep
num num num
going.
num 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 num. Feed me with your tears. um, Outside of obviously doing what I can to support our community in need right now. My one more thing is I've grown up in Minnesota my whole life. It's a hockey state for a reason. I've always been a Wild fan, but god damn am I on this bandwagon.
Yeah.
Like, they're fun to watch play, and they actually score goals, and lots of them now. And that's not something we used to have. And we have arguably probably the best top two defensive lines in the entire league.
Pretty fun right now. It's pretty fun.
It's fun to be a Wild fan right now.
I think Quinn Hughes is still learning how he can best slot in and make everybody around him better. I think the team's still finding out how to play with each other. But
I
it
agree
means
with
even in the
that.
process, they're spanking good teams by like 4 goals.
It is sad that we did lose the Hughes Bowl
Yeah, we did not
the
look
other
good against
night,
the Devils at all.
but like, they kind of have our number anyway. So
Yeah.
like, Um,
They're an
I hope
underperforming good team. At least that's what
they're
I've heard. I don't know jack shit
they
about
are
the East.
like the Wild are good. They can be better.
Yeah.
And they
They'd
can
be
be
crazy.
better with who they have. And Billy G has said, hey, I have no problem going out there and making a splash. We've got cap space. This is the 2 to 3 year window, and the front office is 100% about going all in. And
it's nice when your franchise goes for it. It's nice. It's exciting.
it's
Gets the
nice.
heart
It's
rate pumping.
exciting. And for the love of God, before I die, could I please live in a Stanley Cup winning city?
It's absolutely ridiculous that the state of hockey does not have a Stanley Cup in it.
It's a crime against sport. So
true.
yeah, my one last thing. I am 200% on the Wild bandwagon. Let's go. Let's bring it home.
Can I?
Yeah, I've got other teams. I'm in Madison, Wisconsin, so I'm also watching
Forward
Madison. I'm watching Forward Madison kind of rebuild their roster. They just brought in addition to their coach and team manager to kind of help with roster building. We're putting together a women's team. It'll be in the semi-pro league, but they are hoping they need to make some renovations to the stadium to get up to certain specifications, but they are hoping to get into the Super League, the professional women's league, within the next couple years. So that's all fun. My other team I've been watching a lot is Bayern Munich, who are not even halfway through their season and they're at a plus 51 goal differential. they're
Oof.
fun to watch. Like I know we complain about like the lack of competitiveness of some European leagues, but they are fun to watch and they are just burying teams. On Sunday they beat Wolfsburg 8-1 and they
Eight
were
to one
scoring
is
even in injury time.
ridiculous.
They don't stop. They don't really care how high up they are. They just keep going. They've just been a lot of fun to watch.
Cannot wait to watch them in Champions League later
They're
rounds.
good there. They're good. Watch them. They managed to grind out a win against PSG. I think the only team they've lost against this year so far is Arsenal, if I'm remembering correctly, which tells you kind of what level they're on. But
Yeah,
they've been a lot of fun. And other than that, yeah, I'm doing a lot of studying because I have my big nursing board exam coming up. So
good
You
luck with
got
that.
this.
Very nice. Well, I think that about does it for our inaugural episode of Loon Calling. This is it. No more practice. We've done so many practice recordings. Funnily enough, Dikenna has not made it to any of the practice recordings, and then is just like showing up and killing it in the actual recording. It's almost like you do other podcasts or something like that. Yeah, this was really fun. Looking forward to doing it again very soon. I thank you, um, everybody, for listening. I hope you enjoyed us talk shop about Minnesota United. It's going to be exactly like this. It's probably going to be long. It's probably going to be a lot of people sharing their long-winded thoughts. But I hope it is obvious that we care very deeply about this club and think about this club a lot because we have a lot of things to say about it. So, if you're
I
in for
may or
that
may
ride,
not be planning a Minnesota United tattoo at some point in
yeah,
this calendar
that's
year.
the level. That's the level. Um, so if you're in for that ride, I hope you will subscribe, leave a like, leave a review. I don't know what platforms this is going to come out on, so whatever the appropriate thing is, if it's on Apple Podcasts, leave a rating, please. That is really, really helpful. If it's on YouTube, leave a comment, leave a like. On Spotify, you can also review now too, I think, and leave comments on Spotify podcasts. Um, it would be amazing if you did so. Yeah, I know. I know. A lot of people still use it though. Um, okay. Thank you very much. And we hope to catch you in the next episode of Loon Calling. Okay. Bye bye.